Welcome to the SaaS AdLab podcast, where we interview the source of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs. My name is Luis. I'm the owner and founder of Fantôm agency, a digital marketing agency specialized in scaling SaaS companies. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Sunil. He is the founder over at Outklip. First of all, thank you so much for being on here today. It's a pleasure having you. And to kick things off, why don't you just tell me and tell us really, a little bit about your background and how you kind of went to where you're at today with Outklip.
Awesome. All right, Luis, thank you for having me on your program. I'm Sunil Kowlgi, the founder of Outklip, which is a SaaS product that's helping people make screen recording videos for YouTube. So a little about my background. I grew up in India, and I've been programming since the age of 11. Started with the Logo programming language, where you write programs to like move a cursor around and draw things. And so my introduction to programming is really in a very fun and friendly way. And sometimes like the way you're introduced to things like has a huge bearing on what you do later in life. So sure. I've been a programmer for most of my career. Mm-hmm. I did an undergrad in electrical engineering. Soon after college, I got a job in a company that made mobile phones, and they needed to write apps. This is the pre-iPhone days. So that was my first job, writing mobile apps in this really low-level kind of operating system level software. And that got me hooked to low-level software, which is kind of working at the hardware-software interface. That journey kind of lasted almost 10 years. And it brought me to the US, where I did a master's in computer engineering at UT Austin.
Very nice.
And after UT Austin, I landed a job in Austin as well, working on device drivers, like really low-level software. Mm-hmm. So accidentally, like as a software engineer, you usually do not get exposed much to customers, but I had these opportunities to interact directly with users of my company's products. And I was really delighted by like in helping them troubleshoot issues. So I learned something about myself, which is like, I really like to directly work with users.
Right, to help people kind of understand things too.
Understand things, support them in issues, and just help them be successful in using those products. So I liked building products, software products, and I liked directly interacting with users. And this is also the time when there was the mobile startups like starting to boom. Like Instagram got bought out, WhatsApp got bought out. So this is like really started to get me thinking because these were such small teams building world-changing products.
Totally.
And so I was like, okay, I like building software products. I like kind of working directly with users. And I always thought startups required a lot of upfront investment. You need a big team, but these startups are disproving that conception. Basically, I thought, okay, you know what, I can do startups. I have the skills to do it, and that's how I started working on startup projects. So I quit my job, started working on startup projects.
So before, sorry to interrupt you here. Before you had like a set startup or anything like that, like. You decided, I'm just going to stop working. No, really, as far as everyone that's listening right now and myself no other source of revenue or anything like that. Just stop and start working on startups.
Yeah, I had saved up through working in my previous job. And I was a little naive to jump in. I had an idea, okay? And the product I wanted to build, but I didn't really think through like, how am I going to make money off this? Right. I thought things will just click eventually and automatically.
And how old were you when you did this?
I was 31.
Okay.
When I started doing that. This is about 3-4 years ago.
Cool.
I basically started working on startup projects. I didn't like form a company right away. I started getting interested in the user generated video content space. So I think that's one of the big emerging trends of today, like people making videos to express themselves.
Totally.
That's why Instagram is such a huge hit. TikTok's now the biggest sensation. And people are basically making videos, right? And so I wanted to play a role in that space. So what I did was I created an Android app, which let people make videos of themselves that they could share with their work colleagues. So it was very company focused. And then I started, how I landed on Outklip was basically a series of discoveries after I made that app. The first set of discoveries was basically people telling me that they wouldn't record themselves and share with their colleagues because a lot of them were working from home and they were in their pajamas. They don't want to be seen on camera.
Right.
So it looks like the camera was kind of a no-go. Camera on its own was a no-go when it came to work video. Secondly, people started saying they wanted to make, they do a lot of screen sharing, so they don't do screen recording.
Mm-hmm.
And they work mostly on a computer. They don't use their phone as much for work. So I kind of pivoted from an Android app to basically a desktop focused app. So that's how I landed on started doing screen recording apps.
Mm.
And further along, another set of discoveries from how people used it. A lot of people were gravitating to using Outklip, and the feedback a lot of them left from me is like, I want to post videos to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So listening to user feedback, that's that's how Outklip is currently taking shape, which is like making screen recordings for YouTube.
Mm.
And today we have users who have from anywhere from a couple 10,000 users to people who are just starting the YouTube channel, and the first video is one made through Outklip.
That's super cool. Does that mean since now people are using it as obviously to create content kind of thing, does that mean that the audience that you had in mind kind of disappeared because it started initially right as almost like I wouldn't say B2B,
Right.
but an inside of a business to like share how you were doing things and stuff like that. But now these videos are going into YouTube. Is it still the same use case where people are kind of showing people how to do other things except on a more B2C approach almost?
Right. So the people are largely doing a lot of the same things that they were doing even when I started out. Um, I just had a different idea of what people would use it for, like
Mm-hmm.
sharing videos internally. But
Right.
right now, people do share like private videos on YouTube. There are companies that post meetings on YouTube, so people are opening up to like putting
Right.
even companies.
Even if it's public or unlisted videos and stuff like that, but they're still using YouTube as the host for it.
Absolutely, yeah. So people are opening up to the idea of YouTube as a general distribution channel, right? Even
Totally.
for internal purposes, as well as like if they have a meeting where they're not discussing customers and they want to put the video on YouTube, so it could be used as marketing
Totally.
collateral. So uh, I would say, I mean, I've learned a lot of use cases based on how people have used it,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, some things have changed because I've made it more YouTube focused.
Mm-hmm.
Less of the kind of IP kind of oriented content does not get posted on YouTube, of course.
Right.
So, but I hope to like as the platform grows, maybe get back to kind of serving a corporate market.
Okay.
But right now, it's just focused on like.
So is that your goal essentially? Like it seems like for some reason you wanted this to be more of a business centric kind of solution. Is there a reason behind that?
So I think it was. They say that it was mostly driven by my thinking around consumer startups. So B2C, they say is like getting struck by lightning, right? Getting a good idea, which a lot of people. There's problems with B2C. One is not too many people want to pay for it.
Right.
And second, you need a lot of users. They're mostly ad-generated, ad-based business models.
Mm.
So that's why I kind of wanted to focus more on business, where I could deliver value and just like charge people a premium for using some
Totally.
cool features. Just my personal preference and how I ought to run things.
Mm-hmm.
But now I would say I'm more closer to a B2BC, right? A business to business consumer.
Yeah.
Where there are consumers, there's also people, small business owners and companies that are using it for their purposes.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So right now, like, how are people like? I guess how long has the company been live for?
So for the last 18 months.
Okay, and how are people currently finding it? Because you mentioned, I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter how many users, how many subscribers the users of the product have, if that's not necessarily working as a user acquisition kind of platform. Is that something that you're leveraging? Like if you have some big YouTubers that are using the platform and you have in the corner that says Outklip or something like that, especially if they're using the free version, right. Is that kind of how people are finding about the product, or what are the user acquisition tactics that are being implemented?
Right. So what you mentioned is exactly like one of the things we for the free users, there's an Outklip watermark that's applied to the video, so people know where it came from. The YouTube description says made with Outklip, so that's driving some of the traffic for new user signups. One of the channels. The other is word of mouth. So we kind of incentivize, send out emails to users saying if you kind of let people know and they join and make videos, then you get so many amounts of like premium credits for making longer videos. So we're trying to get word of mouth going through incentive schemes.
Right.
also being discovered in on the Chrome store. So right now, Outklip is primarily a Chrome extension.
Gotcha.
And being found in the Chrome store is important. So trying to make the description and everything kind of give people like a very quick snapshot of what this extension is about, and making that another channel for acquisition.
What about obviously like YouTube is huge, right? And there's millions and billions of people using that, and it. Do you at all think that it could be limiting you if you're using it mainly on YouTube, where technically you could be doing the exact same thing on Vimeo or any other big video sharing platform?
Right. I think, I mean, YouTube is clearly the dominant platform.
Right.
And most users, this is kind of based on user feedback, where a lot of people said there were people in the early days who were uninstalling the Chrome extension because there was no way to put it directly on YouTube. So
interesting.
I haven't got, so it's based on user feedback. If somebody asks for Vimeo, I'm certainly happy to provide it and build it. But right now it's just purely based on what people are using it for.
Yeah, and that would be my guess too, right? Like everyone uses YouTube. To be completely honest, I don't even know like why you would go to Vimeo. I'm sure I'm missing like the value proposition there, right? But I just don't know like what are the reasons because people would prefer, I guess, Vimeo over the other. But I don't know. I guess I have to look into that.
Right. But, I think yeah, like it's they actually serve different needs. I feel like YouTube is where people go to consume, watch videos, and build up their audience. Like having a YouTube channel is like how you kind of become an influencer in the YouTube space. I think Vimeo is what I've seen is like people create, especially people who work on videos. They use that as their portfolio, a way for showcasing their portfolio, and for embedding videos on your website. Vimeo works better because Vimeo doesn't like. If you're you're creating a marketing video and putting on YouTube and you embed that in your website, YouTube will automatically, after the video ends, will recommend maybe a competitor products. So I think Vimeo is kind of more suitable for those kinds of use cases. So I think they kind of have their own niches, which they're useful. And what I'm seeing, kind of the data I have is basically, most people are trying to build, can become influencers on YouTube or share it with whatever audience they have on YouTube, and that's what we are serving.
What do you think? Because this right now, like this sounds similar to at least the beginning of it, right? Like the way you position it at first, it sounds like it's a very close competitor / alternative to Loom, and I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yes.
What would kind of be like the differentiation? Because I feel like Loom is right now doing exactly what you kind of mentioned in the beginning, right? Where it's more of a the use case is a lot more business to business kind of thing, like within businesses and stuff, like whether you're doing training or you're doing showing people how to do stuff and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that overall? Absolutely. Like there's no really specific question on that, but like what do you think about Loom, I guess is the question.
Yeah, so it's been a while since I took a look at Loom, but I'm totally familiar. I keep hearing about people who are using it. So what I gather is competitive products, the problems that Outklip are solving are kind of unique. It's really kind of super targeted at people who want to make screen recordings and put them on YouTube. And there's a huge bunch of users that want to do that.
Right.
So a lot of the other apps are missing key features where if you want to if that's your workflow, taking a screen recording, putting it on YouTube, they only do a part of the workflow. It's kind of fragmented, where you make a video using Loom and then you need to download it.
And then upload it again.
Again. So the whole workflow might take you about 15 minutes using 2-3 different steps. Whereas with Outklip, it's 2 to 3 different clicks, and it takes you a minute or two, because Outklip has a YouTube integration. So the moment you record a video, it's automatically hosted. So you have the option of like directly sharing the link with people, or there is a YouTube button where you can hook up your YouTube account and then click it, and your video's on YouTube.
Yeah, so it sounds like really the fact that you kind of niche down on YouTube is the biggest differentiator here in the use case, where I can see it happening and with a lot of different things, whether you're recording a presentation or something like that, put it on YouTube, or even gamers that maybe want to record it. I'm not sure, Yeah.
So gameplay is a big use case. there are, I mean, just to give you a quick idea of the big top use cases,
Hmm.
small business owners use it for kind of giving instructions, and they often get their apps developed offshore.
Hmm.
They're using it to give instructions to those kind of programmers who are living abroad in a very visual way.
Hmm.
It's also used by freelancers and remote workers to kind of demo their work
Hmm.
and to give feedback. And also used for gameplay where people want to post,
Yeah.
and used by other YouTubers too. Like there's a user who delivers these news updates to like cryptocurrency audience,
Oh,
and
cool.
using YouTube to like just basically do screen recording and share
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's super quick and easy to just, hop on, do whatever you need to do, record it, and upload it into YouTube within really like a couple of minutes in the time that you actually do that thing, which is pretty cool. Now, I know, the company's relatively young, but aside from, the watermark and really emailing people, like what are other ways which you're currently either exploring, like trying to get into to start generating more users, or that you're currently doing?
Right. So trying to get um, do more content marketing
Hmm.
um, through kind of interviews, blogs, uh, content marketing through our blog, as well as trying to build up the YouTube channel, trying to get the word out through that, and also trying to connect with our. Some of the plans I have are connecting with the user base in a more substantial way. Right now, people can chat with me through kind of a chat bot on the website,
Hmm.
but I'm thinking of like creating a Discord server so
Yeah,
people can just like kind of have a community going. So my
totally.
goal is to create that community for Outclip. Also create forums where people can like share tips and tricks,
Hmm.
and help other users as well. Right now, I'm the one who's doing a lot of the support.
Right.
So I think just making the existing users get a lot of value out of Outclip. Uh,
Mhm.
that's one of the big things that I have plans for. And for getting new users and new user acquisition, it's going to be through. I feel the existing users are the ones who hopefully spread the word.
Totally.
And hey, this is a cool product. I've used it, and you get good support in
Hmm.
using this product. So you should try it out.
Yeah, definitely. When you have a good product and you have a loyal, like you have a good product, and then the customers turn into loyal customers,
Right.
especially early on, because there's those early adopters, and they have that kind of like visionary where they feel good whenever they're able to put a new tool in front of you. And I've seen that firsthand many times. So I think that's definitely one of the most valuable things to kind of leverage. And if
Right.
you can incentivize that too at the beginning, then it turns into a really a monster of just like user acquisition, which is pretty cool. What is the most challenging thing so far in these 18 months that you've kind of bumped heads with?
So I would say a constant challenge for me is the balance between like what to give away for free and what to charge for, and
Hmm.
it's constantly shifting. Um, so, right now, the user is getting a lot of value out of Outclip,
Hmm.
and I want to see, and it's important for a startup to thrive to be able to capture some of that value that it's creating.
Right.
So kind of experimenting with different ways of getting people to upgrade. Um, and so that's kind of the big challenge I feel is the
Mhm.
dilemma between uh, ultimately I want to create a win-win situation where users win
Totally.
using Outclip, and I too benefit
Hmm.
from that. And yeah, so constantly playing with it and changing things up like very frequently to see how people like get them to
out of
upgrade.
out of every out of everything that you've done so far in that regard to like get people to pay or to provide more value, and then seeing like what that brings back as far as revenue goes, what's been like the most apparent success within that little realm?
Um, so the things that have caused people to upgrade, I would say, are so in our on our premium videos, there is no watermark. So people are using it for professional
Totally.
videos. Like they definitely want to upgrade for that reason.
Hmm.
Also, the free tier has a limit on the length of the video. You can only make a 10-minute video. Some people need to make longer videos. For that, they need to upgrade. So those
Hmm.
are the two main things. And the uh, the third thing I would say is the premium videos also have access. You get access to this suite of quick editing, video editing videos. Like you can trim videos, you can crop them, You can convert a segment of a video into a GIF so you can promote your video. So people upgrade for that reason as well.
That sounds really, really cool. Have you ever thought of maybe allowing people to almost white label it where they can put their own logo and stuff like that for maybe if it was like a professional kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely entertain that if somebody had an ask for that. But so far, I've not received a request for that. I think it's probably
well, YouTube typically puts your brand on there anyway on the video, so I guess it wouldn't necessarily be necessary.
That's right. For YouTube, it does not, because they pop up your logo if you set it up that way. But if you're downloading the video and sharing it elsewhere, or you're sharing the link directly, yeah, white labeling is an option that I will explore in the future.
Yeah. If you could have one thing, like whatever it is right now, whether it's 100,000 users, maybe you're already there, or if you could have somebody come in and invest in the company, what would that thing be?
I would say it's basically deep engagement with the product. Of course, I would love to have a lot of users, but like they say, right, you need to have happy users. So that's the only thing. Yeah, that's the only thing I care about, is how deeply are people engaging with the product, because that's a solid core on which I can build on. And that's what my focus has been like throughout, which is how can I get deep engagement, make this product work for people, support them well, kind of building up the loyal base. So that's my number one focus. Everything else is secondary. They say that every dollar of user money is worth like 10 of investor money. I totally believe that. Yeah, so I think user growth is probably a byproduct of having a loyal user base.
Totally. To kind of like shift gears here a little bit into a more of a personal side of owning and building a company, like what's been the most challenging thing as a on a personal level? Is it making sure that you kind of create that work-life balance, or like keeping the right relationships in the right places, like making sure that whatever's happening outside of work isn't affecting you inside of work, especially early on? Because typically, and I don't know if you have how many people are on the team or anything like that, but people tend to be more on the lonely side, like they kind of isolate themselves to like get this off the ground and stuff like that. So like, what's the hardest thing that you've experienced so far as you've built the company?
Right. So I think it's just getting a lot of no's from people. It can be kind of discouraging when no's and crickets, right? You email people, I want your feedback, and most often you don't hear back. And then sometimes you do hear back and it's a no, I don't have time for this. And it's heavily skewed in that ratio, right? Where you get a lot of no's and a lot of no replies, kind of dealing with that, because that's getting rejection is not easy for anyone. So
how do you deal with it? I mean, do you kind of just like you're focused and where you're going and like what you're after? Like what is like not necessarily the coping mechanism, but like what do you do with that rejection that you do get sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, startups are hugely to do with your psychology and kind of tricking yourself into thinking that it's all going to work out. So the way I do it is I just look back at some of the wins I've had in the past.
Nice.
Like of the 100 emails, like I got a hit with one person, and that turned out to be really good.
Yeah.
And I've got like proof of those. Like I've got blogs written about those encounters and videos. So I try to just focus on the positives really, which frankly, it's kind of a fat-tailed. I don't know if you know that expression, but we tend to think that if you talk to 100 people and you get only one, like the probability wise, it looks really bad. You're getting 1 out of 100 hits, but sometimes that one person can be a game changer.
Totally.
Can totally open you up, expose you to a new audience. And that's been like again and again, that's been my experience. The one person that responds, the one person that replies can open a whole new world of opportunity for you. So this constant belief in that.
That's awesome. And you reminded me of a book there for a second when you said that, when you kind of go back and think about the emails that you sent out and you actually got a response. I don't know if you've ever read the book by David Goggins. I think it's called Can't Break Me, but he talks about, he's like an ultra runner, just like super, athlete kind of thing. And he talks a lot about, having this cookie jar, which is like everything that he's accomplished so far. And he goes back to that and grabs out a cookie to kind of like remind himself, that he can do and overcome those types of things, which is pretty I thought that was really cool. If you're into books and stuff like that, like definitely
Yeah,
check that
I
out.
love reading books, and I think that's one of the ways to sustain myself, right? Like
Yeah.
keeping a positive mindset. I try to read
Hmm.
like I read recently Ryan Holiday's Growth Marketing.
Mm.
That really set my mind on fire. That
Yeah.
the possibilities of marketing your
Totally.
company are so varied, and there's a lot that I've not even scratched the surface of
Yeah.
marketing.
Oh, there's so many things. That's awesome. And to kind of like wrap things up here, a couple more questions. If you could go back to say day one, knowing everything that you've learned so far, which is probably a lot like most people do whenever they start a business, what would you have done differently earlier on?
So I would say the things that I would have changed back early on is been a little more aggressive at experimenting. I remember spinning my wheels a lot, just thinking of should I do this or not.
Mm.
And often I think a lot of people, and including myself, do is kind of talk ourselves out of doing things, uh,
Totally.
thinking, assuming it's going to fail and imagining it's going to fail. But
Yeah.
uh, just be more aggressive at experimenting
Mhm.
different variants of the product, adding new features. Don't be afraid to try that, because all the YouTube kind of niche, the screen recording, everything has been an accident, right?
Mhm.
I tried doing something else, and
Yeah.
then people will object to something if they don't like it, and it's
Right.
getting objections that have kind of come to the
Mhm.
current place.
Totally.
So I would say just don't be afraid to experiment,
Definitely.
try new things out, and you learn, and even in the no's, not just
Fail
what.
fast and fail forward kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Great advice. And last question here. Do you have any questions for me?
Just curious about. So I understand you're a digital marketing company.
Mhm.
Just curious about kind of what experience, like what are some of uh, the new things that I could try from your
Yeah.
experience?
I think one of the things that you mentioned, and typically like we focus almost purely on paid advertising, right? So anything that has to do with like Google, Facebook, Instagram, whatever sort of ads that you actually pay for. But one thing that's worked really well, I think, is the next big thing, and really it's already there. But I feel like Facebook will be pushing more of that, and you can see it in their advertisements if you ever get them. They're pushing the groups a lot, right? And earlier you mentioned creating like a Discord chat or some sort of community where people can help you out. You absolutely should. It's super, super valuable. Not because you have everyone in one place, but the really cool thing about it is that after a certain point, right, you hit that tipping point where you don't even have to be in the group saying anything, and it's almost self-sustaining, where people within the group will actually teach other people how to do things, and it almost takes care of a support set of things where one person has a question and somebody's already been through that, or is already way past that, so they can help that person out. And you're really building a tribe, of people that are loyal to the product, that understand it, and that can help you, for one, get the word out, and for two, take care of a lot of little support tasks that will be posted on there constantly. And obviously you can also see like how people are interacting with the product, what they're using, get a lot of feedback from that. And eventually you can actually leverage that. Like this is where I think Facebook is going, is you don't have the ability to yet to target groups or anything like that, but I very, very strongly believe you will be able to create audiences from the Facebook group, which allow you then to leverage, hundreds of thousands of data points that you can create lookalike audiences from, and just distribute your content to people that are very, very similar to the ones that have already been using the product for a really long time.
Interesting. So you can, what you're saying is you can potentially target groups within Facebook who self-selected because of interest in something.
Yeah, in a way, exactly. So like everyone in there is going to obviously be a YouTube user, right? And if you go into YouTube specifically, I mean, you could obviously target YouTube, people that are interested in YouTube, but all the people in that group have a different set of characteristics that make them the perfect fit for your product. And then you're also leveraging all that data to then pretty much just copy and paste into a new set of people that you can reach out to with your product,
Interesting.
get them on the free trial, and then obviously eventually, like with all the different tests that you're going, you know exactly what you're going to have to do to get them from free to sign up, and so on.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely something I'm going to
Yeah,
try
so
out.
the community is super,
Yeah.
super important. I think you should definitely do that.
Yeah, definitely take a look at it.
So just to wrap things up, thank you, Sunil, so much for being on the podcast. It was a pleasure having you. If you're listening or watching to the podcast or anything, make sure to subscribe, give it a review, give it a thumbs up, whatever it is you can do on the platform that you're listening on or watching on. And thank you all so much, and see you soon. Bye-bye.